Welcome to another video, guys. Today I'm actually going to be giving you a beginner-friendly artifacts guide so you guys know what stats you need to be looking for on your items and where you could be getting them. This video is definitely going to help a lot of newer players, but even if you're an experienced player, you might actually learn a thing or two. God knows I actually have learned a thing or two while preparing this video. Hope you find it helpful, and if you do, a like and a subscribe would really be appreciated. And also don't forget you can start raid the right way using my download link, which is going to give you 2 amazing champions, and also you have up until the end of March to use the promo code Supreme6 in your first 24 hours of a new account to get your hands on the legendary Void Champion Supreme Gaelic. Now let's get into the video. Since this is a beginner-friendly guide, I'm also on a newer account here on one of my friends, and now we can just straight up jump into the items section so we can better understand what you could be looking for in your items. Before we start explaining what item can roll what, it's probably not a bad idea to actually talk about the main stats here at the bottom, because I know a lot of people actually do not understand what each particular stat here does. HP is pretty self-explanatory. Everybody can benefit of a little bit of HP here and there. It just determines how long your champion is actually going to be alive. With attack, however, this is an interesting little thing a lot of players actually don't realize, but attack actually does absolutely nothing for some champions. Right now we can see Alice here, and she definitely does benefit from attack. But here right now we have Draconis, a rare champion who is HP based. And this guy does get absolutely nothing from attack, like literally not a speck of anything. If you go to his skills, you're gonna notice that his damage is actually based on HP, so attack does literally nothing for him. His second skill is just a buff, and his third skill again is based on HP, so again he's getting absolutely nothing out of HP. So that is something to definitely pay attention to when you're gearing out your HP-based champions, and the same can be said for defense-based champions. Like for instance this guy, if we go to his skills, again you're gonna notice his A1, the damage is based on defense, here again damage based on defense, and here is just a buff. So defense based champions and HP based champions get absolutely nothing from attack, so that is very important to know when you're actually building those champions. For defense, as you noticed, some champions actually do benefit damage wise with the help of defense, and also I guess for HP some champions benefit from HP for their damage to scale up as well. But defense, again, a lot like HP, is valuable even to attack-based champions like Alice, because the defense basically determines how much damage the champion is going to be taking. The higher the defense, the less damage she's going to be taking, and the higher the HP, the more of that damage she could be taking. Pretty self-explanatory. Speed, however, is a stat not many new players actually fully understand. Speed basically determines how fast your champion is going to be taking a turn. For instance, let's take campaign. The campaign mobs have around 100 speed. So basically, since Alice has 170 speed basically here, she is going to be taking 3 turns for every 2 turns the campaign mobs will be taking. If she had 200 speed, she's going to be taking 2 turns every time the enemy will be taking 1 turn, and so on and so forth. So I'm pretty sure you guys can understand how important it is for you to actually be the first one to be dealing the damage, and also for you to actually have a chance to deal that damage again before the enemies can actually take a turn. So that's why speed is actually super important in this game. Crit rate and crit damage are kind of self-explanatory, but still, let's explain them real quick. Crit damage basically means how high is the chance for your champion to actually crit. In this case, we can see that Alice is actually not crit capped. Crit capped means for her to be 100%. So it's definitely not ideal, and you definitely want your damage dealer nukers to actually have 15 plus 85 crit damage over here. Whereas the crit damage, this basically means how big the damage of your crit strikes will be. So you basically want 100 crit rate and also pretty high crit damage too. The crit damage would be doing absolutely nothing for you if you're not critting in the first place, so yeah, it's definitely very important to get the crit rate up to 100 first and then start worrying about the crit damage. And lastly, we have resistance and accuracy. Resistance basically means what is the chance of your champion to be resisting a debuff. So if your resistance is higher than the accuracy of the opponent, you should be resisting that debuff. Almost always. Let's not talk about the 3% for this video. Whereas with the accuracy, if your accuracy is higher than the resistance of the opponent, you are going to be landing the debuff. So that's why it's important if you have some kind of debuff on your champion. For instance, here we can see that Alice could actually be decreasing duration of random buffs. This does need accuracy to actually land. You could be increasing cooldown of the opponents. This also needs accuracy, so it's actually pretty good for Alice to have a decent amount of accuracy over here. And depending on your opponent, the amount of accuracy you're going to be needing is going to be different. So the higher the better usually, but when you start getting further into the game, you're going to learn that you don't want to be wasting too much time with accuracy if you don't need it too high for that specific piece of content. So yeah, now that we understand the stats, we can also look into the items and see what you should be looking for. First things first, it's pretty important. I know as soon as a lot of players start, they're gonna start doing silly things like leveling up absolute garbage. And here, this account is no different. We definitely have seen plenty of bad things leveled up quite more than they should have been. Basically, if an item is 3 stars or less, it does not really need to be leveled much more than, let's say, level 8. Because a 3-star item is just gonna be absolute garbage for almost any player after their 2nd week in the game, 3rd week, something along those lines. So definitely don't waste your hard-earned silver on bad low-star items. Like for instance, here's a great example of a very bad thing that has been done to this account. Level 16 3-star chest piece. Pretty bad. Like honestly, this is definitely worth the sell. This, I guess it's kind of borderline okay, just because it's straight up speed, but it still leaves a lot to be desired. So basically the key takeaway here is if an item is under 4 stars, it really does not need to be leveled up beyond level 8. For 4-star items, I'd say it's okay to level them up to 12. And for 5-star and 6-star items, you could definitely be leveling them up all the way to 16, especially if they're good. The reason why low-star items are so bad is they basically have super low potential. Like, look at this 1-star gauntlet, for instance. It can only go up to straight up 90 defense. And also the rolls these items could be getting are also pretty bad. We don't really need to go into details here how bad this is, just take my word for it. It's kind of obvious. Like this gauntlet, 1-star, let's compare it to this gauntlet, which is 6-star, and it's already up to 16. And you can already see, like for instance, here's a great example. This flat attack here, it's straight up 26. Whereas this flat attack here is just 3. So yeah, it's super horrible to be using rank 1-star items, period, and same can be said for 2 and 3 straight up. 4, borderline acceptable, especially if you've just started out, and 5 and 6 is what you should be striving for. Even in the late game, you could be using 5-star items with pretty good utility. Whereas the difference for what the common items are, you're gonna notice this common item does not have any substats. Notice this area right here, no substats. The uncommon greed items, they have 1 substat already showing. Rare items are gonna have 2 substats showing. Epics have 3, legendaries have 4, and mythicals, which you shouldn't be getting for quite a while, have 4 showing, as well as 1 is already actually rolled up once. So this is basically twice the amount of resistance you could be expecting on this item right now. So this is basically the difference between each item. And another important thing to be taking note of is the items are going to be rolling up their substats on each 4 levels. Like for instance, let's show this nice and slow. I'm going to level this item 1 by 1. And now once we level this up to 4, one of these substats is going to get an extra roll. Here we're going to see it's going to be getting extra resistance. If we roll it up to 8, another substat, potentially even the same one, is going to roll again. Yeah, this is actually a triple roll on resistance already. This item could actually be pretty important if we're trying to build a lot of resistance on some support champion that has cleanse, for instance. We're going up to 12, and it's gonna roll another substat. This time it's crit damage, which is kind of pretty useless for what this item is trying to be. So yeah. And if we roll it all the way up to 16, I'm not gonna do it right now because it costs a lot of silver, and we don't necessarily need to be doing that right now. But when you roll it up to 16, it's gonna also increase the flat defense a lot more. And it's gonna get 1 extra roll on one of these stats. Now that we know what the different rarities and ranks of items are, and also how they level up depending on their level, we can also take a look at what you should be expecting out of the different items. And this is something a lot of players don't realize for a while, but the top row of items, your weapon, your helmet, and your shield, can only be rolling one thing on their main stat. The main stat, like I said, is this thing right here. We can see that the weapon has a main stat, attack. And this is the only main stat a weapon could have. The substats could have plenty of things. We're going to talk about that in a bit. Helmets, on the other hand, they have HP as a main stat. That's the only main stat they can have. And also with shields, they can only have defense as a main stat. The bottom half of items, however, they are much different. For instance, boots would be the most important item for right about anybody, because they are the only item that can roll flat speed as a main stat. Speed on the boots is the most important thing you could be looking for in an item, so that's why the boots are super important. If this thing was a level 6, you would be having 45 speed straight up on it. So that is absolutely huge because we already have established how important speed is for anybody. So when you're building a champion, the first thing you need to be looking for is actually flat speed on the boots. What you could be doing is opening the filters, go to primary stat and look for speed, and that's only going to be showing you boots. And here we can see this account has not a bad amount of boots, especially if we look at the equipped. And with boots, it's even going to be acceptable to be equipping your champion with a 5-star common boots even. Like, as long as you're getting that flat 40 speed or 45 speed, it would be absolutely amazing for you. Here's a good example. Here's a common boot with the potential to be rolling up to 40 speed once we get it up to 16. And this is actually going to be considered a pretty good item for this account. Another important thing you will be looking for would be in the gauntlet section for your nukers, for your damage dealers. Right now we are on such a damage dealer like Alice, and she could be having crit rate on her main stat or crit damage. In this case we have crit damage, and this is actually an absolutely amazing item for this account. It has 80% crit damage, and it also rolled a good amount of crit rate on the substat, so it's actually not going to be super hard for this item to roll up to 100 crit rate, even though, as we see, this build right now does not have 100% crit rate, which is a shame, and it definitely needs to be taken care of soon. And chests are the other important item you should be looking for to have some pretty good main stats here, because chests could actually have attack percent as a main stat, which would be giving you a lot more attack straight up. Like, for instance, let's see if we can do a direct comparison here. If we look for chests with primary stat attack, let's even look at the equipped, hopefully 6-star. Yes, we can see that this attack percent chest would be increasing the attack by 600 for this champion straight up. We can notice there's nothing else going on, it's just the 60% alone. And here again is the same deal, there's no attack to be interfering on the substats. So yeah, this chest piece gives 265, whereas this is going to be giving 265 plus 600 over it. So this is a great example how much more stats you could be expecting from percentages on your main stat compared to flat stat. So yeah, flat stats are much inferior when there's the chance to actually be having a percent instead, and you should be looking for those if you can, but for new accounts it's gonna be a while till you can actually be that picky with your items. But it is definitely something to be looking out for. Now that we've acknowledged how important the bottom row of items here is, we can also actually take a look and see what you could actually be rolling on the different items depending on what they are. For instance, like we said, the primary stat of a weapon can only be attack, helmet could be HP, and shield could be defense. The substats, however, could be a little bit different here. And this is something I have not noticed actually. For instance, a weapon cannot be rolling a flat attack as a substat. This is something I actually did not realize after 1.5 years in the game. I did notice you cannot be getting defense percent or defense flat as a substat as a weapon, but never really noticed that it also cannot get flat attack. And same can be said for shields. They cannot be getting flat attack, flat defense, and also percent attack. They can, however, get percent defense. Whereas with helmets, they could be rolling right about anything. With the gauntlets, like I already mentioned, if you were a nuker, a damage dealer, you would be best off if you actually slap them with a crit rate gauntlets, because that is going to solve most of your problems getting yourself to 100% crit rate. Crit damage is also pretty good, and it's actually the best when you progress in the game a bit more. But in the early game, it's going to be a lot easier for you to get the crit rate gauntlets instead, and that way you're not going to have issues of not critting from time to time. The crit rate and crit damage is only essential for the damage dealers, however. If you are a support, a healer, a reviver, a debuffer, you'd be much happier if you're actually finding yourself yourself HP percent or defense percent. As for attack percent, that's generally not gonna be super amazing for almost anybody. An exception here would be bombers, but let's not get into detail there. Bomber champions actually do not need crit rate or crit damage. They do scale off amazingly with attack percent in most cases, so attack percent gauntlets are usually not that amazing. Again, for the substats, you could be rolling right about anything. Something worth noting though is if you actually have, let's say, a main stat crit rate, you're not going to be getting a crit rate substat. And I guess that's also the reason why weapons cannot be rolling a flat attack. Duh. Now I realize I'm kind of an idiot for not realizing this, but yeah, you already have a main stat attack, so you cannot be getting it as a flat stat, and same with the defense flat stat and not being able to get it as a substat. With chest plates, the premium stats you could be looking for as a primary stat would be accuracy, which would be especially important for champions that can land some debuffs, have some certain effects that need accuracy to happen. So this would be a pretty nice thing to be going for on those type of champions. It could even be used on damage dealers if they have some effects like we saw Alice does. Resistance is something you're not going to be too fussed about when you're first starting off. It would be amazing to have high resistance on champions that can actually remove debuffs, cleansers and stuff like that, revivers, that kind of deal. But in the early game, you're not really going to care too much about flat resistance on your chest. It's not going to be bad, but it's not something you're going to be super fussed about looking for, I guess. HP percent is definitely pretty amazing for HP-based nukers, for supports, revivers, that kind of stuff, and same can be said for defense percent. Again, on the substats, you could be rolling pretty much anything except for what you already have as a main stat. And lastly, we have boots, for the artifacts at least. And like I said, speed would be absolutely king for right about anybody. You want your nukers to be fast, you want your supports to be fast, you want anybody to be fast basically, because it's just that good. There are some exceptions for some nukers, I guess. You could be okay with going straight up attack percent on some nukers, you could be okay going HP percent on some HP based nukers, or defense on defense percent nukers. And for some champions even, like let's say Ultimate Death Knight, you're gonna be fine having HP percent or defense percent as their primary stat, because you're not really looking to be fast with that one, you just want that guy to stay alive. So there are always exceptions to the rules, but 99% of the time you're going to be looking for speed on the boots, and that's why it's so important to start with boots and then build from there. And again, it could be rolling right about anything on the substats again. I guess it's also not a bad idea to talk about the accessories. Here we can see rings can only be having a flat HP, a flat attack, and a flat defense as their main stat. And also for the substats, you could be having, again, HP, attack, and defense, both flat and percent. With amulets, it becomes a little bit more interesting. Here, the main stat could actually be crit damage, would be absolutely ideal for your nukers. But you can also get flat HP, attack, and defense. And HP and defense would be best for your revivers, debuffers, supports, that kind of stuff. And attack would be okay for bomb champions again. And as for the substats, it also becomes a little bit more interesting because you also have a shot at getting accuracy and resistance. And again, for your debuffers, it would be best to get accuracy. For your cleansers and revivers, it would be best to have resistance, that kind of stuff. But getting crit damage in the substats is far from ideal. Like, that's kind of the worst, because if you are looking for crit damage, you will want it on the main stat, basically. And lastly, the banners, which are the most important accessory. And the reason why they're the most important accessory is they can actually be rolling speed. The other pretty cool thing about banners is they can also roll flat accuracy, and they have tons of accuracy on them, like 96 accuracy on a level 16 6-star banner. You could also be getting resistance, which could be pretty good for, again, cleansers and revivers and such. And also HP flat, attack flat, and defense flat, which are not amazing, but they're okay for champions that don't care too much about the rest. An important thing here is actually you cannot be getting accuracy or resistance as a substat from your banner, which is something I didn't notice for quite a while. But like I said, you could be getting speed on it, so that's absolutely amazing. So that's about it for what items could be rolling. Now let's talk a little about sets. Raid actually do a good job of explaining that subject as well. And when you're first starting out, it's actually not a bad idea not to be caring for sets too much, especially if it's the bad sets. What are the bad sets? A good example for a bad set would be the life set. Offense set is nothing to write home about. Defense set is nothing to write home about. Speed set is actually amazing. Even in the late game, you're going to be looking for speed sets. Critical rate, not the most important set, even though as a beginner you are going to be happy to get that plus 12%, and so on and so forth. And what I mean by that is, it's not going to be the end of the world if you actually build a champion with a broken set. Let's see if we have an example for that right now. Here's an okay example. Here we can see we actually have a 2-set piece of speed, a 2-set piece of crit rate, and also a broken set, 1-piece hex, and 1-piece bolster. And the reason why we have a broken set here is because the boot was super good. Like, we were really looking for a speed boot for the champion, and it also has some nice attack rolls on it as well. So really can't say no to a boot like this, especially when you're starting out. And here the shield, it was also a pretty good shield to equip on this champion, so we just broke the set for the last 2 pieces, just because they were super good straight up. So what I mean by this is, when you're building your champions, it's good to be looking for the 2-set piece, the 4-set piece, but don't break your back equipping suboptimal items just for the sake of getting that plus 15% HP from a life set, for instance. I think this video became already way too long for me to go into detail about sets and so on and so forth, but I hope the video still was pretty helpful for you if you just started out. This definitely should be giving you a lot better of an idea what you should be looking for when you're building your champions, and what stats you could be getting from where. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, a like and subscribe would really be appreciated. And also don't forget you can start Raid the right way by using my download link in the description or the pinned comment, and get yourself 2 amazing champions as well as the Void Legendary Supreme Gaelic using the code Supreme6 by the end of March. Thanks for watching, I'm Chris05, and I'll see you in my next video or stream.